This is Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I wanted to respond to some of the comments I received on one of my other videos. None of them were bad. All of them were actually pretty decent. I made the argument in that particular video that in order to address political issues, in order to address corruption and those type of political problems, you have to get to the root. And I made the argument that the root cause of it is capitalism. Now, many people agree, but there were a few people who said, whoa, no, the issue is not capitalism. You have capitalist countries like Sweden or Switzerland that do just fine. Somebody else made the point that, well, no, the problem is crony capitalism. That at the end of the day, you have politicians who are there to enrich themselves at the expense of the public. Fair enough. And both of those things are true to some degree. But both of those kind of miss the fact that both of those things are capitalism. Like, both of those things are capitalism in practice, not necessarily in theory. But we don't live in a world of theory, we live in a world of practice. So, let's start at thinking about why we have an economy in the first place, or why we have money in the first place. So, I think you quickly come to this idea of, well, we have an economy in order to distribute resources to our society, and for that matter, to the world, or all societies of the world. And then you start to think, okay, well, cash helps with that because for the most part, it allows me to be specific to a particular task and just use a liquid asset to buy some stuff that I need. So I don't have to be a farmer, a builder, and a software engineer. I could choose one. And the money that I get from my salary, from my pay packet, can be used to purchase the other things in my life that I need. Now, in theory, this sounds decent. And for a long period of time, as long as capitalism is heavily regulated, it can keep ticking along. But it completely misses the point that capitalists always try to undermine the legislation that's constraining them. So you're going to get crony capitalism because those guys feel like, well, if we can bribe a politician, we can, for the most part, get what we want. Maybe we'll cut environmental standards. Maybe they'll allow us to frack. Maybe they'll allow us to pass some of the expense onto the public. It's what they're going to do. It's the capitalistic model. But for the moment, let's step away from the cash part, or the cash argument. What I think the argument's being made misses is that it goes beyond economics. Like, even if you could say, I'm going to create a fairer world where people have the resources to get the food that they need, people have the resources to not be cold and hungry and get health care, but you could still end up in a world where the temperature spikes back 10 degrees. We have an interconnected world. We have a world where you have all of these systems, be it physical, be it man-made, interact with one another. And if you're going to create a situation where the market makes the determination on our relationship with all of these systems, I think you're going to run into problems. I mean, again, even if you could deal with the financial part, you still have this part with the society and the environment falling apart based upon the things that people are doing because they see cash or profit as the highest aspiration. And think about it for a moment. Cash is not real. I mean, it's literally just a thought. It's like a device of something. And so if you're going to put that as your highest aspiration, if I'm in it just to get cash, that's like an unreality in a sense. I mean, so yes, you've taxed this corporation, you've taxed this gas company, you've taxed some other company, you distribute some of those resources back to people so they can food, clothing, get rid of poverty, all that good stuff. Great. Are you having any effect whatsoever on the oil company determining the relationship between your country and the environment, or your world and the environment? Their aspiration is profit. Are they going to frack and put more methane in the sky? Of course. Their aspiration is profit. Are they going to, let's say, fisheries? Overly fishing certain areas of the sea. Is that going to somehow inhibit these companies from doing that? No. Just because you're taxing them doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hamper them from making their profits. You can go down the line on this stuff. I mean, one item after another. The moment that you put an unreal thing as the highest aspiration, you're living in a fantasy at that point. And just to hit one more point, meritocracy. So there's this other gross aspect of capitalism, meritocracy. So again, even if you can get people to the point of, okay, we have something to eat, we have healthcare, we have education, it kind of misses this idea that under the capitalist model, if I get $20 billion, if I went to school, if I, worked hard, if I've studied, if I did all the things right, maybe my dad had went to a particular school, maybe I had family that had certain advantages, whatever. If I got $20 billion, I've earned that $20 billion. Now the flip side of that, of course, is that, well, if I didn't earn $20 million, if I'm barely making ends meet, if I'm sleeping on the street because I couldn't, get cash to buy a house or pay for my rent, whatever that situation is that has that person in desperate poverty, meritocracy, in the same way that it says that billionaire is perfectly just in having that much money because that billionaire was successful, it conversely says that guy who's sleeping on the street deserves it because he wasn't successful enough. If he would have worked harder, if he would have went to school, if he would have devoted more time to his studies, he would have been able to avoid sleeping on the street. Now, that's pretty gross because it's essentially making the argument that gross poverty, people literally being so insecure that they don't have a place to stay, is somehow justified because that person didn't do whatever arbitrary things that society thought that person should do in order to make enough cash to subsist. That's a little weird of an argument. You know what I mean? I don't. Just because you can get people, put money in people's pocket, it does not mean you're changing the fundamental relationship between how we as people interacted with our connected world. And until you deal with that issue of what is going to be the relationship between people, between our environment, between finance for that matter, what is that relationship? What's the most healthy relationship? If we can't have that conversation, even if you get somebody like Sanders in, and even if Sanders raises the minimum wage to $15 an hour, you're still stuck with horrors and things that can bite you in the end just because you didn't deal with the fact that the profit motive should not be the highest aspiration of a society or an economic system. Like, last point, do you know, I think it was like 71% of the world lives on less than $10 a day. It's mind-blowing. But again, that's a capitalistic model. That's not a bug, that's a feature. In order for somebody to live high on the hog, we don't have infinite resources. Somebody else is going to be in desperate poverty. So, yes, I know people in the United States think to themselves, no, capitalism going great. I mean, we're not that bad off. But it's not just you, dude. There are other people around the planet. We make up, 5% of the world's population. I still make the case the problem is capitalism. Thanks, guys.